Premier, thank you so much for your time this evening. Now, this campaign that is being run in KwaZulu-Natal, particularly that poster which many have criticized, one would ask, why was this even approved in the first place?
Well, good evening, Mbali and the viewers at home, and thank you for having me. Not necessarily that it was approved. On the administrative part, they wanted to communicate a message, but they communicated or they framed it in an unfortunate way. When I saw it, unfortunately, it was already out there, and then I gave them an instruction to withdraw it. It was late since it was trending, because the focus of our 7th administration in the KwaZulu-Natal is to address issues of crime and gender-based violence. Hence, we've had a robust engagement with various communities, especially where in their hotspots of gender-based violence. We've even decided to employ the gender-based violence activists to police stations, the graduates, to go and assist the victims. And we've been part of even the victims' funerals to try and communicate with the communities around the areas where perpetrators reside, so that they take a firm position against gender-based violence. We've seen a number of women and children losing their life. Hence, our effort, which is collaborative, working with the various sectors to try and drive the agenda of mobilizing the society to treat, in fact, women and children in a proper way. So it's unfortunate then that when they framed the poster, they had to write something that had to maybe be insensitive, that had not to accommodate, in fact, the reception that was meant, because for them, they were not actually meaning, when I checked with them, they were not meaning that a woman is equal to be given support, because women can be independent. They can work, they can be business women, they play various roles in the society. And even in government, they have very senior roles, like the Director General is the most senior in the administration of the province. But the mistake which they committed was to use the line that had to miscommunicate the message which they were actually trying to communicate. However, as government, we are committed in ensuring that we become, in fact, those who stand against GBV, who protect the dignity of women and children, and ensuring that every society is mobilized to understand that now is the time that we end gender-based violence.
Premier, one would ask, you were saying that they were trying to send a message, but surely with the gender-based violence in our country being such a serious issue, particularly even in, the rest of South Africa, even KZN itself, surely it's not something that we can joke around, particularly when we are trying to send a message.
Yeah, you see, their reaction when I pursued the discussion with them regarding the post, they were talking about even the issue of looking after families, that men must look after their families or after their wives. However, the line that they chose, because I had to engage them to understand as to what is it exactly that they wanted to achieve. It's a campaign against gender-based violence, and they were honest and they were frank that it's a campaign that all of us must embrace, except that their choice of words was unfortunate, to communicate what they did not really mean. We are a government that is committed, as I've mentioned, even themselves. They are part of the campaigns. We're in agreement as the entire Executive Council that each department has to run a campaign at work, run a campaign in the society, We have even roped in even the traditional leaders, even the spiritual leaders, to say, let us all have programs to target this scourge, because it's something which is worrisome when you see the number of the women and children who are killed, and the brutality that is actually used, something which is done by people who are even employed, because at times people will think that people who are perpetrators will only be the people who are unemployed. Unfortunately, the number of cases I've seen include people who are actually employed. And then it's a campaign that is important that we need to sustain as government, but not just for the sake of campaigning, for the sake of seeing a situation changing, men respecting women, men respecting their families, and protecting their families.
And Premier, do you think that the women of KZN, particularly those who have been facing gender-based violence and who have suffered under gender-based violence, do they deserve an unreserved apology from the KwaZulu-Natal government?
Well, I'm not quite sure from which side of the question. Because the issue of gender-based violence is happening in the society. When you analyze to the factors that are mainly attributed to it, the police themselves, they will explain to us that the issue of alcohol abuse and the drug abuse seems to be a factor, wherein people, like there is a case of one of the women who was actually killed by someone who was employed as a security guard, having an illegal firearm, and was posting in a shebeen saying, today is my last day, I'm going to do something that will surprise everyone, from a shebeen. And when you look at the analysis of the number of cases that take place of gender-based violence, police will tell us that most probably on Friday, Saturdays, when people are moving from the liquor outlets, such as the taverns, that is where you'll see the cases being reported. The unfortunate part is that some of the women, they report cases and withdraw in the exchange of any promises that they give to them, of which we have been discouraging. That on itself, it perpetrates the issue of gender-based violence. And then for us as government, when we run our campaign, it's important that we respect the dignity of the women. Whatever words that we use must show that we understand the role that we all have to play, government, business, and the leaders of the society, to protect and love our mothers, our sisters, our families, our wives, but not to communicate it in a manner that will be insensitive. Hence, I officially just apologize to say no for this campaign, which was meant for the good. The words were coined in a way which even myself I was not comfortable, but I still insist that the campaign against gender-based violence is a campaign that we must be aggressive on it, because we don't know who we are losing as I speak, who are we going to lose tomorrow. As I normally say to the communities, when you look at your family, you have your daughters, you have your sisters, or whoever who's a woman in your family, and you look at this GBV happening in your neighbor, and you think that is an issue which which is none of your business. It's unfortunate, because no one, in fact, will report that my target is in that family. Hence, it's important that we need to prevent it, even to break a silence from the women who are abused and who do not, in fact, take a decision to be out of an abusive situation or abusive relationship. Even those who are suppressed by their parents to say, when you are actually married, right, even if you have been abused, you must, in fact, for the sake of the marriage, and not react to that one.
Premier, thank you so much for your time. That's Ntuli, the KZN Premier there, just giving us his insight when it comes to that very insensitive wording of a campaign and poster which has been doing the rounds in KwaZulu-Natal, but he has since apologized for that issue.